A lot of times at this time of the year, everyone starts to look back at their favorite Daytona 500s, and a lot of them I always see are 2011 or 2007, 1998, and for some, 1979. There's a few others like 1999 and 2008 that are really underrated as well, but there's only one that absolutely baffles me as to why it isn't talked about as much. This being the 2005 Daytona 500. For the life of me, I just don't understand how this race gets overlooked so much, especially over the past 15 years. Instead, it seems to be overshadowed by its 2004 predecessor, which was won by Dale Earnhardt Jr. But to really give the full story of the 2005 Daytona 500, you have to look at the 2004 season. The year was dominated really by four drivers. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who had won 6 races and looked like his dad as an elite championship-level talent. Jimmy Johnson. He was a young sensation picked out by Jeff Gordon, handpicked by Jeff Gordon, to pilot the 48 car, and he was continuing to prove Gordon right. Jeff Gordon, a continuing dominant force in the sport since the mid-90s, and NASCAR's most divisive driver at the time. And Kurt Busch, the winner of the inaugural Chase for the Nextel Cup. The only real superstar that wasn't in the title hunt in 2004 was Tony Stewart, who still ran really well and looked like his elite self. All of these drivers would be with their teams heading into 2004, with the exception of one crew. In a swap that would later prove catastrophic, DEI swapped the teams and crews. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would get the former 15 crew that limped home to a 20th place points finish in 2004, while his teammate Michael Waltrip would be given the 8 team that won 6 races and competed for a championship the previous year. The swap had immediate Speed Weeks results, as Waltrip and Earnhardt went 1-2 in the respective dual qualifying race, while Tony Stewart would go on to win the other. Anticipation for this race would grow throughout the weekend. At this time, NASCAR was still the second most popular sport in America. And the previous week, for the second straight year, NASCAR's Budweiser Shootout actually had more viewers in the country than the NFL's Pro Bowl. NASCAR earned a 5.3 while the NFL got a 5.1 rating. To put it in perspective, the 2019 Daytona 500 had the same 5.3 rating that the 2005 Budweiser Shootout had. Millions of people across America were getting set to watch NASCAR's finest race for the glory of being the Daytona 500 champion. The race started out shakily. 2000 champion Bobby Labonte and 2003 champion Matt Kenseth would both fall out early due to engine issues. Meanwhile, Hendrick Motorsports rookie Kyle Busch would also run into trouble. Busch was one of 3 major drivers who was actually making their first Daytona 500 start in 2005. Him, as well as Martin Truex Jr. and Carl Edwards. None would be factors in this race. Busch would finish 38th after the wreck, Truex finished 34th, and Carl Edwards was the best of the 3, finishing 12th. After Busch's wreck, the field would mind their P's and Q's for a bit, and it led to a 55-lap green flag run, meaning that green flag stops and the mistakes during those stops would play a huge factor in the day. With this all happening, the race looked eerily similar to the 2004 running. The field was separated into smaller and smaller packs and getting more spread out. Before this got too out of hand though, an actual debris yellow on the 86th lap of the race would bring the field all back together. To this point, 3 drivers had shown dominance: Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Michael Waltrip. These 3 would hold serve past the halfway point before debris yet again brought out the yellow. And the next 2 yellows also would be brought out by debris, leading to a lap 159 restart. The race with 42 to go was heating up. With this came the first major player and major domino to fall in this race.
It's not running.
All right, guys, we blew up. We're coasting into 3. We're coming to pit road. Caution is out.
Along with the 20 and the 24, Waltrip had the best car out there and the best car he would have all year. After 2005's 25th place points finish, Waltrip actually left DEI to focus on his own team, Michael Waltrip Racing. But as for every race, when somebody goes out, the show has to go on. And so it did, and it ramped up the stakes. Restarting with 35 to go, the moves became bolder, the blocks became more definitive, and the mistakes became more costly.
Turn 4. 4 wide, and we've got a problem. John Andretti's 14 and the 11 of Jason Leffler. Bring the caution flag out. Scoring stops immediately. And we're under caution again with 32 laps to go.
Stewart would continue to lead when the green flag conditions were restored. The orange 20 was lightning fast on the bottom line, but only on the bottom line as he couldn't run anywhere else fast. As long as he could keep the Hendrick teammates of Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson behind him, he would be good. To beat Stewart, you needed to pass him on the high side. Jeff Gordon would be the only one brave enough to attempt it at this point. The try was to no avail, as the 24 could not make it happen. On the bottom, it would be Stewart, Johnson, and Kurt Busch. Up top, it was Gordon, who had help from an emerging Dale Earnhardt Jr., who hadn't been a factor all day. With 16 to go, the action would be broken again, this time by the dreaded big one.
Brad. Well, Rusty got through it. Here we go. Harvick slides up in front of traffic. Cars upside down, cars everywhere. Come on. And turn 4 is Calamity Corner once again.
Now, with 13 to go, it would be Stewart, Gordon, Earnhardt, Busch, and Johnson. And once again, a crash quickly stopped the race.
And we got trouble already on the restart here. Mike Skinner in the 23, Travis Quaffle in the 77, and they're spinning out through the grass. Caution is out again.
John Andretti just piled into Mike Skinner.
This caution would set up a restart with only 6 laps to go. Nobody had passed the 20 up top at all day, until someone finally did.
If I was Jimmy Johnson, I'd go to the outside.
Look at Junior, he slammed up to the outside. He's going to take the lead with 5 laps to go.
Unbelievable. For the first time today, Dale Earnhardt Jr. leads the 500, but not for long. Here comes Stewart and a big pack on the bottom. 4 laps to go.
Man, you can get up there even with that other guy, but you just can't get the pass made. Or can you? Yes, he made it.
Go to the bottom now. He'll slam the door.
He made it.
And this crowd is on their feet going wild.
What a pass. Way to go, Junebug.
Over 200,000 fans at Daytona sprung to their feet, cheering loudly for the red and white 8 car. But the jubilation was short-lived.
3 to go.
That's what you do when you're in the lead. You just move around, move around.
Look at Kurt Busch in the 97, 3 wide. He's going to make the pass.
He gets by Stewart.
And here comes Gordon.
Mark Martin back at 7, still part of the chase here.
Gordon still thinks he can make that outside car in the wall up too. I think it's the 9 car.
But he keeps going.
Debris all over the place.
Yep. Casey Kane bounced off the wall, turn 2.
And Jeff Gordon has made a pass.
Once again, the caution would fly late. This would set up the first ever green-white-checkered finish in Daytona 500 history, setting up the 90s rivalry reborn, Gordon versus Earnhardt with a new generation. As for this finish, I'll let the footage do the talking for it.
Gordon's not going to give up that yellow line, you can bet that.
8 cars due, 2 car gap, then 2 by 2.
Now, Junior's got help. Kurt Busch. No, Busch slices to the outside. He wants to win the 500.
Coming outside. All the
He gives Jeff Gordon a push going off into turn 3.
Kurt Busch, the next Dell Cup champion, fights his way to second.
The good thing he can't get any closer than that, because I believe he would have probably given Gordon a big shot up the hill.
Here they come, boys. White flag. 1 to go.
Scott Riggs to 4, and Stewart looks to go 3 wide. Thinks better of it. He is trapped behind Jimmy Johnson.
Boy, that 97 car of Kurt Busch is a fast piece of equipment right there. He's got to look.
He's the only Ford in the front 5. What can he do?
Look at Scott Riggs in that 10 car. He's trying to get him a top 5 finish in this Daytona 500. And there's Jimmy Johnson on the 48 on the outside, Darrell.
Somebody needs to get up there and go with him, but I don't know if Tony Stewart can run the outside or not. If he hadn't all day.
Busch to the outside. Gordon slams the door and into turn 3.
Side by side.
6 cars have a chance to win it. Jeff Gordon's going to lead him into turn 4. They're 1 mile from home.
Tony Stewart just slid up the racetrack. He and Jimmy Johnson are going to make contact.
3 wide. They're bouncing off each other.
Jeff Gordon's going to win his 3rd Daytona 500. Kurt Busch, Dale Jr., and Scott Riggs completes a dream week with a 4th place finish.
Gordon was able to outlast Busch and Earnhardt to win, with underdog Scott Riggs finishing 4th behind them. While a great moment for the 24, it led into one of Gordon's worst seasons on record. Busch would never really be a factor in defending his title, and he would have to wait 12 more years before he finally became a Daytona 500 champion. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would go on to only have one bright spot in 2005, with a lone win at Chicagoland en route to a dismal 19th place points finish, the worst of his career to this point. After the race, Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart would trade blows with their cars back and forth. The driver of the 48 caused trouble in nearly every plate race in 2005, but most forget it because the next year in 2006, he won the Daytona 500 and then won 5 straight championships, as well as 2 more to tie Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty for 7. As for Stewart, he got redemption in July at Daytona. He led amazingly 151 of 160 laps in that race, and he won his second of 3 championships. Unfortunately for him though, he would never win the Daytona 500. The 2005 Daytona 500 also was one of the most watched races in NASCAR history. The race had a rating of 10.9 and a share of 23. On average, there were 18.7 million people watching the race at any given moment, the second highest in NASCAR history at that point, and currently the third highest. 35.3 million people watched the race at some point during the day, as well as when Jeff Gordon crossed the line, where 13.5% of the country was watching. It was the highest in the history of NASCAR on Fox. And it still is to this day. This race would also be the start of 2005 being the most watched NASCAR season ever. Fox Sports went on to average a 5.7 rating and an average of 9.6 million viewers per race. The race itself had a few unique bars that it set. It's currently tied for the highest attended Daytona 500 at over 200,000 people. It was the first to go past the advertised 500-mile distance. It's Jeff Gordon's 70th career win, Rusty Wallace's final Daytona 500, and interestingly enough, Kevin LePage's final top 10, where he finished 9th. So now, I want to pass all of this to you. Do you think the Daytona 500 in 2005 deserves more recognition? Let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe for more great NASCAR content. And until next time, have a good one.